A wonderful morning to everyone who has joined today. From ManageEngine family, we would like to extend our warm welcome and sincere thanks to all our customers, partners, and users who are interested in our solution. Endpoint management and security is one of the main focus areas of ManageEngine. In today's webinar, we will focus on endpoint management solutions, which has different product portfolios under management and security. During today's session, we will be discussing Desktop Central Suite, which has management and security capabilities. Once again, welcome to Desktop Central Training. Let me introduce myself. My name is James, and I'm a product specialist with ManageEngine. I take care of the endpoint management products, including Desktop Central. I'm a seasoned technical support engineer, assisting customers in their implementation, consultation, and troubleshooting in case of any challenges. Let's look at the training schedule. We are on week 4, and we will be looking through the asset management. This is one of the modules of our endpoint management and security suite. We have covered a couple of modules over the past weeks, and we are currently running on week 4. In case if you have missed any of our training schedules, you can always view them on the link that is shown at the bottom of your screen. If you're interested in the upcoming training, please use the same link to register yourself. And a good news, we are providing a training participation certificate upon completing the training series successfully. Let's look at the asset management module for today. Let me quickly talk about the agenda. We will have an overview of Desktop Central. Then we will be having a look at the architecture behind how Desktop Central works. And with regards to asset management, which is about today's session, we will look at some scenarios, including how we can troubleshoot help desk tickets and how Desktop Central can help you on a daily admin activities. I've taken a couple of scenarios like troubleshooting system slowness, proactively resolving hard disk spaces, and identifying unauthorized application, which is pretty interesting. And how would you identify it when it comes to a distributed workforce? And I've got some frequently asked questions. In fact, even during the training, if you have any questions while I explain all these things to you guys, if you have any questions, we do have a specialist panel. So if you guys have any questions, please post your queries on the chat. We would be able to support you. So we will be using Desktop Central Server Build version 10.0.658 for this presentation. And this application supports all the browsers. Now, what is Desktop Central? Desktop Central is an endpoint management solution that ensures all your endpoints are secure and enables the users to use them effectively for business. A popular research analyst called Forrester defines UEM as follows: product that provides centralized policy engine for managing and securing employee laptops and mobile devices from a single console. In unified endpoint management, you can manage endpoint in a traditional IT management fashion, which includes patch management, application management, configuration deployment, OS deployment, tools for troubleshooting, and day-to-day management activities. Similarly, endpoints can also be managed with modern management, guys. Now, all modern management operating system supports modern management. The supported features like geo-tracking, geo-fencing, managing stored applications, profile distribution to enforce restrictions, operating system reset and recovery. Could you guys guess the popular operating system when I say modern operating system? Yes, The operating system is Windows 10. Windows 10 is a classic example in which we can manage both traditional and modern management. Desktop Central can manage both the world's traditional and modern from a single console. Hence, with Desktop's unified endpoint management solution, you will be able to manage desktops, laptops, mobile devices, sales, and even browsers. All this from Central is recognized in 4 top 2021 IDC MarketScape reports for UEM, and we are recognized for unified endpoint management in Magic Quadrant by Gartner. We are recognized in modern management solutions. Now, these are the features that you can leverage when you're using Desktop Central as a unified endpoint management solution. Vulnerability assessment and patching solution, application control, web protection and filtering, device control, which allows you to manage what devices can be used, and remote desktop management, analytics and reporting, and application management will allow you to whitelist and blacklist your application so that you can make sure what applications can be used and what can be prohibited. Our Desktop Central solution is available both on-prem as well as cloud. And it is available for managed service providers too. Now, what are the components that you need to run this application? There are essential as well as optional components. The Desktop Central server is the central component that you will install. It provides the interface to your management console. The agent is also an essential component. You need the agent to be installed on the machine that you would like to manage. There is another component called notification server. And guys, this is really interesting component, which we will talk more about once we go into the product. When we look at the optional components, we have distribution server, which serves as a repository for patches, softwares, scripts that you are going to deploy to the machines from to a remote office. We can create unique replication policies for each replications, or I would say for each location requirement. Then we have the secure gateway server. This is useful if you're going to manage machines that are not part of the LAN or connecting over the internet. We also have the failover server. In case if you want to have high availability, you can make use of this. And guys, this is separately licensed, all right? These are add-ons. Moreover, you can also use language pack to list the web console in your preferred language. We support 3 operating systems for now: Windows, Mac, and Linux. Please find the list of supported applications, supported operating systems on the screen. And guys, please do remember the application server runs on the Windows platform only, but you can manage the endpoints with Windows or Mac or Linux. In case if you have any questions, you can always reach out to our support. Please refer to the email address shown at the bottom of the screen. Now, the important question, why do enterprise need asset management? Guys, I've got 4 important things sorted here. Probably you might have more experience when it comes to asset management. With my experience, I've got few options listed here. 1, to keep track of all your software and hardware assets in your organization. To optimize the usage of license used by the softwares when it comes to a commercial application. To be compliant and audit ready at all times. And you're going to need an in-depth report or a detailed reports to cater all your needs. All right. Now, what kind of data is collected during the scan? Guys, let me quickly take you back to the console to explain this much better. As soon as you install the agent, the agent does a full scan. Okay, you can find this setting under the agent tab. And then if you go to agent settings, you have this option selected, perform inventory scan. Okay, actions to be performed after agent installation, right? Now, once the full scan runs, these are the details that will be collected. So let me take you to the inventory tab. So if I go to computers and I click on my machine's name, so you will get the disk usage, OS information, service tag, and expiry date will be automatically fetched. System information, like what kind of services that are running on this machine, users that are there on this machine, groups that are created, drivers that has been used on this machine, hardware details, like what kind of hardware being used, whether it is working okay or not, software that are currently used. If you find unauthorized application, you can also have it uninstalled from here. What kind of certificates being used on this machine, file details, like what kind of files, whether it's MP3, docs, XLS, etc. And then you would also have an information about the BitLocker encryption, whether the drives are encrypted, whether it is enabled or disabled. If it is enabled, you can fetch the recovery key from here. And you would also get the antivirus detail, whether if you're using Windows Defender or any other third-party antivirus. If it is up to date, what version it uses, firewall information, again, same if you're using Windows Firewall or any other third-party firewall, missing patches from the patch management module. And then you will also have the USB audit, like what kind of USB device is being plugged in, when was it last used, device instance ID, how long they've been using this device. All these informations will be shown here. Okay. Now, these are the informations will be fetched during the first inventory scan. Now, let me take you guys back to the presentation again. One more thing, which will also be collected if you are going to do the modern management. When it comes to modern management, you might ask me like, what are the functionalities, that are available under the modern operating system? Let's say geo tracking, managing Microsoft Store apps, remotely wiping the device if it's being stolen. And then you have the geo tracking, which is mentioned on the presentation here. So you will also get these informations during this inventory scan. Now, how does the inventory scan works? Guys, as I mentioned, as soon as you install the agent, there's a one-time full scan that happens, okay? But what happens after that? Like, will it do an automated scan for the inventory? Yes, it can, but it should be scheduled. Now, let me again take you back to the console. So under the same inventory tab, you have this option called schedule scan. In here, you have the option to enable the regular scan that needs to be done for inventory. Okay. And it's up to you guys. You can define accordingly, right? Like either it's based on daily or weekly or monthly. Okay. And what happens during this regular inventory scan? Is it going to fetch the complete details again? Is it going to do a full scan? No. Now, the next inventory scan, the scheduled scan, will be a differential scan. Okay. So it's not going to do a full scan. It's going to be sent to the server. Make this session pretty interesting. I've got a scenario here. Let's say John and his IT team is responsible for managing digital workspace. Okay, let's say we've got the head office in Dallas, and then branch offices all over the globe. Say London, Chennai. We've got branches in Sydney where the roaming users are there, and we've got the Chennai office with the unlimited bandwidth connected via a VPN connection. And then you have London office connected via VPN again, but limited bandwidth, 1 Mbps. And we've got the Bogota office again with a limited bandwidth of 512 kbps. Now, how is he going to achieve few scenarios that I'm going to explain to you guys? Now, first thing, when it comes to managing a digital workspace, I believe this pandemic situation taught us many lessons when it comes to managing a digital workspace, right? So I've got few things here. Say you have a user who already has a VPN, or say you are going to provide an end user who is going to work from home from now, and then again via the VPN, and then you might have end user who does not have VPN, but you have all your applications either on the cloud or it's edged. All right. Now you will come across these situations when it comes to managing a digital workspace. Now, out of my experience, I've generalized few challenges in terms of managing, these digital and distributed workforce. All right. Now, as I said, this pandemic situation has taught us many things when it comes to managing an endpoint, right? Say you have the work from home users, you have the work from office users. Let's start this in this way, okay? Before pandemic, you have all your end users working from the office, and there's a limited authentication. You will have your planned updates. You can have all your in-house application, and again, it's working from office, right? The benefits that you have when you have working from office. Now, when you're moving the same workforce who's going to work from their house, now there are potential risks, right? They might have unauthorized application installing on the machine. They might access unauthorized websites, and then they might have they might access something restricted which you do not want them to access. And once this say this work from home situation completes, and then you're going to have the same end user coming back to your office, and before allowing their devices connect your local office network, you would like to do some security checks, right? You would like to see if there is any unwanted application installed, antivirus, whether the machine is affected or not. If it's affected, if they have unauthorized application, how am I going to rectify that? Now, these are the challenges that you might face in the coming days, right? Now, through our solution, let me tell you how you can identify work from home endpoints, right? And when it comes to Desktop Central, we've got two type of architecture. Okay, one, you can mainly for branch offices. The end user was going to work from a branch office, probably from a remote location. The other part is roaming users, straight to the main company from the house to the company. Right. Now, let's say you have implemented Desktop Central and you install the agent. Now, this is a client server model, right? Now, in order for the agent to communicate to the server, there's three things that are really important. Okay, I would say the agent reaches the server on predefined inbound ports, and it reaches the server in a sequence. Okay, now the sequence is this. First, the agent tries to reach the server using the host name of the server installed machine. Now, if the host name fails, then the agent will try to reach the server using the IP address of the server installed machine. Now, let's say this machine is working inside the office. Okay, obviously the host name or local IP should resolve. And let's say the same user is working from home. If they're connected via VPN, again, the host name and local IP should resolve. Now, what if this user is connecting from home over the internet, no VPN? How is this agent going to reach the server? Now, for this scenario, you need to have a secondary address, which is nothing but a public FQDN or an IP. All right. All you need to do is, say for example, you have a public address, say product.server.com. That's my public address. Okay. What I have to do is I have to do a NAT in my network saying that any traffic that reaches the public address product.server.com should get rerouted to the local IP of my Desktop Central server install machine on predefined inbound ports. Okay, now I've done this. Now, in here, the important thing that I wanted to highlight is this: secure gateway server. Now, secure gateway server, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's going to add an additional security layer when it comes to managing an endpoint which is outside your network. Okay. Now consider this situation. You already have Desktop Central, and you already have a secure gateway server installed, and everything's right, working perfectly fine. Now, if it's going to be a LAN agent, remember hostname and local IP should resolve. Then there's no problem. Remote office agents, again, even if it's roaming user, I've got the secure gateway server already implemented. Now, if I implement this secure gateway server, do I have to do a NAT for the Desktop Central server's address or the secure gateway server's address? That's an important thing that you have to that's probably the important question that you might have. Now, in this case, secure gateway server will be placed under the DMZ zone. So the typical architecture will be like this. Okay, so you will have Desktop Central server behind your firewall, and then you will install the secure gateway server on a Windows machine again, and this machine can be placed under the DMZ. Okay, and when you do the NAT rule should redirect the traffic to the local address of the secure gateway server, and then the secure gateway server will validate the communication, and then it reroutes to the Desktop Central server. We will discuss more about this later. Okay, so this is the typical architecture. Now, if this user is roaming, obviously the agent can reach the server, right? Because you already configured the public address. Same goes with roaming users as well. Now, let's say you're new to secure gateway server. You have the Desktop Central server installed, and you have not implemented this secure gateway server. Now, in this case, and the worst case, with this current situation, most of the end users are working from home. Now, the agent only knows the host name and local IP, and it does not know the public address. Now, how do I make the agent know that this is the secondary address? For this, it's again a little painful, but you have to do this activity manually on all the client machine by running a script. Now, we have an article which we released recently. Okay, if you go to this article, which again I will be sharing, you can download the script from the article itself, and in the script you have to change the address, the public address. You have to download the script, edit it, and then change the public address there, and then you have to run this bat file on the client machine. Okay, this way you are updating the agent that you can reach the server using this public address as well. Now, I hope this is clear, guys. If you have any question, my humble request, please use the chat window to get your answers. Okay. Now, let's identify work from home endpoints who's connecting via the distribution server. Since we have limited time for this training, I've already done this, and I've created a video for you guys. Let me play that, and then I will explain. Okay. Now, we have to find out the agents that are communicating via distribution server. Okay. Now, on the same article, we have a script available. You just have to copy that script, paste it on a notepad, and then you have to find the current milliseconds time. You can simply find that out if you go to google.com, and then you can type in as the current milliseconds time. You just have to copy that, and then you have to subtract the current millisecond with the value that we already have in the script, which I'm doing right now. Okay, I'm using the calculator. Just copy that and subtract the value. Change the exact script as I've done that right now, and then you have to remove those commas as well. Okay, if you do not remove those commas, then the script won't run properly. Okay, so same way you have to change both the values. So you have to subtract the current milliseconds with the value that we have in our script, and put that value here on the notepad. So once you have the script ready, copy the script again. Go back to the Desktop Central console, and under the reports tab, you have an option called query report, and then new query. Enter the script that we just modified, and then run the script. Now, if the client machines are communicating via distribution server, under the branch office name, you will see the respective branch offices. You can export the same as a report as well, okay, for your use cases. Now, let me quickly show you how you can identify the endpoints which are communicating directly to the Desktop Central server. Again, on the same article, we have a script available. You just you just have to copy the script. And before doing the script, I've already deployed a configuration, which I will show you in a minute. Go to the same reports and then query reports. Name it as whatever you want, and then paste the query there. But you have to change this configuration name. Okay, the configuration that I deployed under the configuration module. So we have a script available, guys, under the script repository called work from home script. You just have to deploy that. And then once you have deployed that, you have to make sure that, okay, if it is executed, then copy that the configuration name, change that here, and then run the report. When you run it, if the agents are communicating via distribution server, then you get the detail as false. If it's not, then this is how you can identify whether the endpoints are communicating via the distribution server or through directly communicating to the server or through distribution servers. Okay, sorry for the confusion. Now, once you have identified everything, okay, now the first thing that you might want to identify is say what kind of unauthorized applications that are installed on an endpoint. Once you identify it, what am I going to do? Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to uninstall it? Are you going to prevent that happen? Prevent end user from installing the same software again in the future? So these type of questions do. We have an option under the inventory which is called the prohibited software. Okay, let me quickly take you guys back to the console to better explain this. Okay, sorry, let me take you guys back here. Console and then inventory tab, and then you have this prohibit software. Guys, this is basically an option that allows you to prohibit an application which are getting installed. Okay, this is not going to prevent from installation, remember this, but once the end user installs it, this is going to straight away show them a notification with your own customized message. If you go to auto uninstallation policy and then user notification settings, the message that you enter here will be listed to the end user. Let me quickly take you guys back to the presentation again, just to show you how this screenshot will look like. Now, this is how the screenshot will look like, okay? And say this end user installed this application. Before that, let me take you guys back to the console. Now, how to add this application as a prohibited application? All you have to do is go here, add prohibit software, and then you can search for the application. I've already added the 7-zip here. Just see this, and I will come back to this point. Okay, I've mentioned this as 7-zip group. Okay, I will come back to this point in a few minutes. Okay, now I've added the 7-zip group, and you can find out the number of machine that has this application installed. Now the end user gets this pop-up. Is it going to uninstall automatically? Yes, it can, if you enable this auto uninstallation policy. Okay, if you're not enabling this, then it will not get uninstalled. And on top of that, there's something that is really important. Okay, which is the executable type, like the installer type, whether it's an MSI type of application or exe based. If it's an MSI type of application, by default, it will get silently uninstalled. Okay. When I say silently, no end user prompts. Okay. But if it's an exe, then you have to provide the proper silent or uninstallation argument. For example, like / yes, / silent, quiet, qn, very silent. I mean, these are commonly used switches, but every software is unique, guys. So you have to get this silent installer uninstaller argument from the respective vendor websites. Okay. Once you have that, if it's an exe type of installer, under the uninstallation column, you will see an option to enter that argument. Okay. And once you have entered that, let me take you guys back to the console here. Now, let's say the end user installed this application. Okay. And for some reason he's using that application and he wants to use it further, and you would like to get your approval for it. He doesn't have to raise an email. He can simply raise that request from this prompt itself. He can put his message and he can copy probably his manager, and then he can send that request. Once the request is sent, under the user request tab, you will see the request sent by the user. Sorry, unfortunately, I've removed that request here. Sorry, my mistake. Now, under the approval status, you will see whether it is approved or not approved. And under the action tab, see approve or deny. If you approve it, they continuously, they get to use it. If you deny it, based on this auto uninstallation policy, it gets automatically uninstalled from their machine. Okay. So using this application, using this functionality, you can have the application automatically uninstall. And as I mentioned, prohibit software does not block the application during, as soon as they trigger the installation, it will allow the, it happens after the installation. Now, you might ask me, this is not the proper solution. We need something that blocks the end user from even, executing a portable exe. They have an exe on their USB, and you don't want them to install it. Like, you don't want them to trigger any kind of installation other than what application that you approved, and then say let's say that's a policy. Okay, approved software policy, apply to an end user machine. Only these applications should be used. Other than that, if the end user tries to install it, it should straight away block that application. How am I going to achieve this? For this, we have this new functionality called application control. Application control allows you to have your own set of approved software list and then restricted software list. And then you have one more option, which is privileged application control. Let me explain that, guys, on the console. Okay. Guys, as I said, if you have any question, kindly reach the the expert panel, use the chat, and your questions will be answered. All right. Now let's look at the application control. Now, as I said, this three options. Okay. One, you can have your approved software list, or you can also have your restricted application list. And then you can also give privileged access to the end user to use a certain application. All right. Now, to achieve that, all you have to do is you just have to go to the application group. You can create a whitelist here. This whitelist can be created based on vendor name, product name, executable, file hash, even folder path. These, what you see here, these informations are fetched during the inventory scan. Okay. If there is a new software install, even that will be fetched here. If you say I have a new application, or I would say I have a hash value that needs to be blocked, you can simply go to the file hash here, and then you can also add your custom value. Just remember this. Okay. Now, once say you have your rule created, say I'm going to allow all the other, and then my where is that? Okay, here, Casper Sky, and then few other applications. Okay. And as I said, it's not only based on vendor name, you can select based on the applications as well. Once you have the application group, you can apply this policy to a group of users. Okay. Now, how do I apply this? You have to go to the policy deployment here, click on associate, and then um, is default group. I mean, in Desktop Central, we have this option called custom group. Okay, using this custom group, you can group your devices based on computer and users. For example, like you have like multiple teams like sales, marketing, IT, contractors. You can use that custom group option, which is available right here. Let me quickly show you guys that. So you can go to the admin tab, and then you can click on custom group here to create your own groups, okay, based on computers or user. Once a group is defined, you can select that accordingly here. So if you say I have a restriction for sales team, but it does not apply to marketing, so you can have multiple policies, multiple groups created, and you can associate that policy to a group that you wanted, all right, based on the users. Or you can simply go with the default group called all computers group, okay, and then choose the whitelisted group that you already created. And then in here we have two options, okay. One is called the audit mode, the other one is called the strict mode. If I choose strict mode, only those approved softwares will be used by the end user. If they try to install, or even say for example, you're getting this add-on right now, and you have 10 approved softwares, okay, and you're publishing a group with 15 software. Now out of the 15, only 10 are approved. The rest 5, we call that as will be blocked, okay. But if you use audit mode, it's going to allow those 10 approved software along with the gray listed application as well. So that's the difference between audit mode and strict mode. Now you have applied this policy, say strict mode, and then I've deployed this policy to my group of devices. Now in that group, you have a manager, and he's requesting to use one of the application, okay, one of the gray listed application. Now in this case, you can simply go to the privilege management here, create a list again, and then you can assign this group, assign this particular software group to that particular user. I mean, it can be one single software, or it's a group of softwares, however you select it, okay. I created this, okay. And then if I say this application is privileged, I can simply go to the okay. This option does not validate if the license is a valid license, or if it's a pirated version. um, it cannot check the application's validity, all that information, okay. What we have here is just a workaround which gives you an option to find out the number of network installation, okay. Now, for example, I've already added the 7-zip group again. So I'm going to edit this. So I've added the rule using the add license option. Okay. So I just have to click on 7-zip as a product name. Sorry, I've chosen a wrong option. Let me go back here. I say modify. And then in here, I've mentioned as 50 license. Say you have purchased the Office 365 license for 100 users, okay? You just have to enter the number here, okay, as 100. Now, once I save this, the console, let me save this information, just a second. Once I save this, the agent will report the number of machine that has this particular application installed. So you will have a difference in count, total purchased minus number of network installation, and then it will give you the remaining count. If you have enough count, then it will be in blue color, and then it will give you over license. If it's like equal, like out of 100 you use 100, then it will be in green color. If it goes more than the 100 that you purchase, it will be in red color, and then it will give you status as 100 license. Okay. Now, when it comes to managing an application, important thing is this software version. Okay, the end user might have the same software but a different version. All right. Now, to avoid confusions, we have this option called group software. Remember, I mentioned about the 7-zip group. Whenever I have a new version in my network, you don't have to add this even under the prohibit software rule, or even if it's the manage license rule. You just have to go to the group software here. You just have to click on add software group, which I've already added. I'll explain this. So I've mentioned the name as 7-zip group, and then I search for 7-zip here. And I've already added this. That's the reason you're not seeing this information. So, and in here, I have this 3 dots, okay? I can click this 3 dots, and then I can set that as parent. Once I set this, I do have this option, add the following version, 7-zip, like automatically, right? Like any versions after this, right? So whenever you add a new version, this particular group will fetch that information and add that particular version to this group, okay? So you don't have to add this manually. Whenever you have a new version in the network, it will be automatically added to this group, and which will greatly eliminate the duplications when it comes to license management or prohibit software rule. Okay, so you can group your softwares here. These are the things that I've already explained. Now, the next scenario, proactively resolving hard disk space. If you guys remember, when we talked about the inventory scan, I mentioned that we also show you guys about the disk usage, right? So for every computer that you manage, you will be able to see the disk usage summary. Let me quickly refresh the page one time. So you will be able to see it. And you can also generate an alert when this disk usage goes below a certain percentage. Okay, you can do that from here, configure alerts. And then in here, you have this option, disk space, individual partition or overall free disk space. So I'm going to select overall disk space is less than 10%. When it goes this standard, you will get an email alert triggered to you automatically. Now, when you get an alert, what are the options that you're going to do? Say you need a report, like how many number of machine has this disk usage issue, and after finding that, say you would like to remove all the junk files, right? Now, to do this, we have some default canned reports that will really help you guys. If you go to inventory report, and you have this option called computer by disk usage. You can also use this report here, which will help you in terms of looking at each individual computer that you manage and its specific computer usage. Disk usage. Let me skip this, and then I'll take you guys here. So you will be able to see the total capacity and then free capacity. Okay, you can export the same as a report to either a PDF format or a CSV or an XLS. Once you have this information, how am I going to clean this junk files? So under the tools, we have this option called system tools. Okay, using these tools, you can manage all these disk related issues. So I can go to the add task. I can either do a check disk. I can do the disk cleanup, which is what we are supposed to do now. So I'm going to choose disk cleanup here, and I believe you guys know, after Windows version feature pack 1703, there is this new concept called storage sense. Storage sense is an automated option which cleans all these junk files automatically. Okay, you don't have to select anything manually. Now, below the 1703 version, you have this concept called disk utility, where you have to select everything manually. Through Desktop Central, you can make use of both the options. If the Windows 10 machine that you use is above 1703, you can simply use the storage sense concept, or you can also use the disk cleanup utility if it's below 1703. Right. Now, this is one other option. where the first thing, identifying the endpoints that has lesser disk space, which have which we can achieve using the report. And then you can also generate alerts for future references. And then you can also clean up the disk using this tools functionality. Now let's quickly look at the desktop central architecture. Okay, desktop central, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's a client server model. And what you're looking at right now is the on-premise solution. Okay, as I mentioned, you can also have the desktop central hosted on your cloud. Desktop central is available in our own Zoho cloud, as well as you can host this on Azure or AWS instance. Now, this architecture is going to talk about the local LAN network as well as network. And when it comes to wide area network, you can manage different remote locations from a single console, guys. They can connect either over the internet or using VPN or through an MPLS connection. For the machines that are present in the remote site, which are connected over a direct internet connection, remember I mentioned about the secure gateway component. So this is the typical architecture which I was explaining. Okay, so you can have the desktop central server behind your firewall, and you can place the secure gateway server behind your DMZ. And then all the connections will pass through the secure gateway server, and this secure gateway server will validate the communication which are coming from the agent, and then it reroutes to the desktop central server. You can also sync your active directory within your LAN, and this sync will help you in many ways. Quick examples like you can fetch active directory reports, you can push out agents from the console, etc. So you have multiple options to use when you sync your active directory. We also support closed network, and you might ask me like, what is a closed network? Now, this is a network which does not have connectivity to internet, okay? Or I would say limited connectivity. So even if you have a closed network architecture, you can still use Desktop Central to manage your endpoints. And as I said, Desktop Central is available in AWS as well as Azure. And as I also mentioned, Desktop Central is available in our own Zoho cloud. If you say, we don't want to place any local servers, you can very well opt for the cloud solution. Now, since I mentioned, this is a client server model, the important part here is the agent installation, okay? Now, to facilitate the agent installation, we recommend 3 methods. Via group policy startup script in your Active Directory, you can simply download the application setup and push it using the GPO. And we also have an automatic agent installation directly from the web console. You can add multiple domains and choose the machines from those domains and push out the agent to them. We also have the scripts that you can use to install the agent. Alternatively, you can also download the agent manually and execute the setup directly on the machine, and it should then automatically report back to the server. So we will be talking about agent installation in greater detail, guys, in our upcoming training session. If you're interested, I would request you to kindly subscribe for the upcoming training. Now, there's this important thing here when it comes to a client server model. For us, this 90 minutes refresh policy is really important. Now, Desktop Central can scale small as well as large network using our 90 minutes refresh policy. Every agent communicates with the Desktop Central server once in 90 minutes, okay? Even if you have 90 machines or 900 or even 9,000 machines, this 90 minutes will be divided between them, and each machine will be given a specified time interval for the agent to talk back to the server. Now, the server has the intelligence to assign this time for each client to talk to the server, okay? Now, this is important when it comes to, avoiding network congestion or bandwidth related issues. So this 90 minutes refresh policy is designed in such a way that the load to the server will be split evenly. Okay. And since I mentioned in the beginning, all the agents are going to communicate to the server on default inbound ports. Desktop Central runs primarily on two ports, okay? 8383, which is for HTTPS, or 8020, which is HTTP. All the agents talk to the server using this port, okay? And there is another port, 8027, which is TCP, which is used by the notification server. Now, let me explain what is this notification server, guys. Remember, I mentioned in the beginning, this is something really interesting, okay? Now, through this training, from the beginning, I always mention that the agent communications are always inbound to the server. Now, what if you want to perform an on-demand action? Say you want to, initiate an inventory scan, manual scan. That's something that you trigger from the console. Or say you are performing a remote control. Remote control is something that trigger from the console itself. Now, is it gonna be an outbound connection from the server? No, guys, strictly no. Now, for this on-demand action, Desktop Central uses the notification server to reset the agent timer, and then it has the agent to come and contact the server. Okay, so in a simple term, notification server will let the agent know that your timer is done. You have to reach back to the server, and then agent comes back to the server again, inbound to the server. Just note this point: inbound to the server. Sees that there's a configuration, either a remote control or an on-demand scan, and then agent process the data on the agent itself. Now, for these kind of on-demand actions, Desktop Central uses this notification server, and it uses the port number 8027. There are few other ports as well. You can view them using the link that is shown at the bottom of the screen. This will give you guys a better idea on what port that needs to be open if you're going with an on-premise solution. Now, quickly, let's go through some scenarios and solutions. Scenario one, we also use Service Desk Plus for asset management. How do the two products interact? And if you're collecting inventory data through through Desktop Central, do we still need to scan the computers in Service Desk Plus? No, guys. Desktop Central can be integrated with your Service Desk Plus through API. Once the integration is done, Service Desk will be using our Desktop Central agent, and this inventory scan will be automatically sent to the Service Desk Plus console. How can we identify the security status of the machines in my network? Remember, I believe I showed you guys this option. Each individual machine will have an inventory, a security tab, which will show you whether BitLocker is enabled or about the antivirus detail. Now, what if I have like 100 machines? Do I have to go to each individual machines? No. We have default report. You can go to the inventory report here, say antivirus detail or BitLocker detail. You can fetch the status from here itself. Like, I would like to find out how many number of machines has antivirus enabled and how many has disabled. You can simply change the status, and the same can be exported as a report too. Same goes with BitLocker as well. You can simply go to the reports or inventory reports, and then you have the BitLocker details here, and then you can fetch the status from here. All right. Does prohibit software feature block web browser plugin as well? Unfortunately, no. Web browser plugins cannot be managed through prohibit software or application control. We have a separate solution for this called Browser Security Plus, which again, one of the add-on which is already available with Desktop Central as a security add-on bundle. You can go with Browser Security Plus, which will help you in terms of managing endpoint browsers, plugins or extension they use, web URL restrictions, web browser history. All these things can be managed through this browser security add-on. Okay. Shared directories with write access is a security threat. Can we identify them? You certainly can identify them. We have a default report here as well. You can go to the inventory tab and then inventory report. And then we have this option called share details. You can find this report like, the machine's name, the shared drive path, what permission it has. All this information will be shown to you as a report as well. I want to identify computers with local administrator account. Is this possible? Yes, you very well can. Again, default reports, you can go to the inventory section, inventory report, and then you have system group users. In here, you can simply select based on domain or the work group that you would like to scan. And then what kind of accounts? Is it the local accounts or domain accounts? But for now, I would like to find the local account equal to administrator, right? So I can select that here. And then I can generate a report. This will fetch you the information of the user who has local administrator rights. Same can be exported. So wherever you see this icon, this means you can export this as a report. Okay. Scenario 6. Dropbox is installed at a user level. And I would like to get this list of computers that have this installed. How do I identify it? So guys, there's user-based application as well as computer-based application. So if you'd like to find out user-based application, again, we have this default report. You can go to the inventory section, and then you can go to user-specific software. And then in here, you can search it. You can go either by all software, or you can also search the record here. Okay. Since we have limited time, I'm going to skip few scenarios here. Let's quickly go through the questions, frequently asked questions. Can we add the date that computers have been purchased? This is to register warranty dates, etc. I would say you don't have to, but you can, okay? Because these details will be automatically fetched. If you go to computers detail here, you have an option here, okay? You have a pencil icon. You can enter this detail. The expiry date and shipping date will be automatically fetched, guys. You don't have to, but if you change it, this will be resetted and you have to enter all these details manually. When you add a program to a prohibited software list, does it take all the version of the software into account? Do I need to update the prohibited list every time a new version is released? Guys, remember the software grouping. So you don't have to, add a specific version. First, go to manage license option and then group software tab. Group your softwares based on the version, and then add that group instead of adding a specific version under the prohibit software list. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to skip the question. I have only 1 minute left. Kindly apologize. I hope this training, if you'd like to rate my presentation, kindly do rate scale out of 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. If you'd like to spread word about ManageEngine Desktop Central, you can also use the social media platform, LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. And the next training schedule is for remote control, which is going to happen on May 4th. You can find the timings for Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Australia. Also for USA, UK, Canada, and Mexico. And if you'd like to get a personalized demo, kindly use the tiny URL, which is available on the screen for you guys. We would very much happy to provide a personalized demo based on your requirements. And thank you so much for your patience. And I'm really sorry, for skipping few frequently asked questions and scenarios. Thank you once again for joining this training session. You guys have a wonderful day. And I'm going to move back to this slide so that, in case if you need this tiny URL for a personalized demo, kindly take it from the screen. Thank you, guys. Have a nice day.